The icons of South African music, Letta Mbulu and her husband, Caiphus Semenya, finally realized their dream of setting up an arts and performance school, which they launched this past week in Soweto. The National Academy of African Performing Arts will provide tuition and training in music, drama, composing, African history and other subjects, and it is set to open its doors for the first intake of learners in the new year. Mosesa Semenya is a board member. He joins me in the studio to tell me more about this project, which has been a long time in the making.
Very long.
I wonder whether before you were born or in your lifetime. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, tell me about the birth of this idea and the concept behind it and how long it's taken to get to where we are now.
Well, the birth of NAPA actually started over 20 years ago,
Yeah.
believe it or not. It is a dream that that they had, and May also had for quite some time, where they felt that we need to start harnessing our own indigenous sounds, our own indigenous talent, and use that to sell to the world, instead of trying to copy others and, try to copy others' creativity or their culture and try to sell that to the world, because you'll always be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, and I had his remarks. He was saying that, as much as a lot of artists are talented, are creative, the thing is they may not have received some formal grounding and tuition that might give them an edge, an advantage in terms of their craft. But question is, there are art schools in South Africa. There may not be that many. So what makes NAPA different?
Well, I would say NAPA is different because it specializes in African creativity. So whether it's theater, whether it's dance, whether it's music, whether it's film, the whole idea is to express ourselves through the African perspective, because we feel that too many times we are trying to become global. But what does that actually mean? You always find that the Americans are global because what they do is actually American. You always hear what the Jamaicans do is now global because what they do is actually Jamaican. So there is an African sound, but that we keep downplaying, and we're trying to pretend as if it isn't global, where it actually is global. I mean, we have quite a few examples of people who've actually done it. You've got your Yusundur, you've got your Salif Keita, you've got your Hugh Masekela, you've got your Black Mambazo, who won 5 Grammys, you understand? So they have stuck to their sound, but their sound has become global.
Right. Now, when we say NAPA, we're talking about the National Academy of African Performing Arts.
Yes.
That's what it stands for. It is in Soweto,
yes,
in Jabulani. So now, the way music specifically is defined in South Africa, it's largely defined by the audience itself, isn't
yes,
it? When they listen to a song, they like it,
yes,
and then they name it.
Yes.
But you'll never be, I can imagine, is this what it means, that you could go to the school and be trained in composing kwaito type of music,
right,
as an example?
Okay.
Is that the idea?
Well, of course it's the idea, because we have to understand that it is the sound. It's the sound that we hear, that we basically end up selling to the to our audience. So I feel that we're not saying that only traditional music or only traditional traditional perspective, or that's not the only way we're going to approach things. We want to approach things how the African mind, how the African eye, how the African ear hears things, how they see things. I think if we are genuine about it from that perspective, then we're going to find ourselves even discovering new things we never thought were possible.
And of course, if you borrow from here, take from there,
absolutely,
mix it up, then you create something new.
Absolutely.
But it's not been an easy journey. I mean, you say the concept was born over 20 years ago, so it's been long in the making. If you can talk me through that, the kind of struggles, if any, that had to be overcome to this point.
Yes. Well, I would say that the initial struggle was the vision. How can our own stuff, how can indigenous sounds, indigenous whatever, how can that compete with these guys who are already far ahead of us? So why should we invest so much in ourselves when you can actually get it for cheapinyana? If you get someone who comes from overseas, you pay them what they ask for, but when it comes from someone who's from here, you give them something, there's so much exploitation happening here. So we feel what we need to do is to now change that whole perception. Like, for example, the 20 years that it took to get there, people kept asking, but why is there a need for another school of this nature? And we kept saying, no, because it's an African school. Let me be honest with you. Too many schools right now are Eurocentric in their approach to the arts. if you want to be taken seriously in the arts, you want to do something that's classical or do ballet, they see you as someone to be taken seriously. But if you want to do something that's African, it's like, whatever, you know what I mean? So we want to change that whole perspective and give it the value and the credibility that it needs.
Yeah, I can imagine, you could do, I'm just being facetious here, but you can imagine somebody having a master's in Gom or Vosho.
Well, the truth is...
Why be good at something that's not going to be recognized as...
Yes, yes.
So, along those lines.
Absolutely.
I think it's what... And then there's the question of the protection of the IP and royalties of artists. I'm sure your folks, your parents feel strongly about that. And yourself, as somebody who works in that field, how do you feel about it? Any ideas? Will the school be helping people understand how to manage their own careers?
I think that is the one unique selling point our school offers, is that we actually do offer a course in business management and also in law, because I think those are two areas which are heavily undermined or even overlooked. We really want to help our artists understand the business side and also the legal side, of handling their brands, because too many times, as you can see, too many of our artists are dying either through depression because they're either poor or they're paupers, or they leave this world as paupers. It doesn't matter if they're, I'm not talking about the artists of just yesterday, the ones today as well.
Yeah, and the school is opening in the new year.
Absolutely, sir.
All right, in Jabulani, Soweto.
Yes.
I was board member of NAPA. Mosesa Semenya, thank you very much for having been our guest. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.